Today I wanted to talk about a little item that is related to one of my favorite things in the world, and that is bang for the buck, or getting more than you expected. So the focus of this trifling little video is the Manfrotto PIXI EVO Manfrotto PIXI Mini PIXI, the Manfrotto PIXI Mini EVO, what the hell? Manfrotto PIXI EVO Mini tripod. I've had this thing for a few years now, and I've been pleasantly surprised at how useful it's been and how much more use I've gotten out of it than I originally expected. So the first thing I want to just talk about are the basic little features here. Now, it's very popular to use the Gorillapods these days for especially vloggers and so forth. But what I don't like about the Gorillapod is that everything's so flexible on the legs that it's not as easy to just immediately get a certain orientation with it. So for the kind of video and photography that I do, I don't really feel like that is quite as practical for me most of the time as something like this. Now this is actually quite flexible in how you can set it up and how it can be manipulated, just maybe not as extremely flexible as, say, the Gorillapod. But let's take a look at some of the basic features on this thing. First of all, each leg extends separately. It has these little notches to adjust how far you might want to pull each one out. It has a pretty low profile when you set it down, and if you want to go really low, you can just flip this little lever over and the legs will splay out really flat. So at this point, from the desktop to the top of the little plate is a little bit over 4 inches, and in the other orientation, if I pull the legs out and prop the legs up, my maximum height now is a little over 7.5 inches. So it's got a nice little range of a little over 4 to a little over 7 inches high. Again, if you need to adjust the orientation, not only do you have the legs that you can adjust, but also there's a built-in ball head that's integrated into the design. So that can be manipulated with this little thumb screw, and you can just turn that to whatever position you would like for leveling the camera or adjusting the angle. And there's also a notch here so that you could adjust it to move it completely to the side for 90 degrees for like portrait mode. It's really easy to attach a camera to it. It's got a little thumb screw here, and just do it like that and you're on there and you're set to go. Now if I wanted to do let's say a selfie vlogging style, then I can fold these down and hold it this way. Now if I wanted it to be longer, to get the camera a little further away from my face, let's say I was using maybe not as wide of a lens as I would really prefer for that look, so then I can just extend the legs a little further, and if that's still not enough, I can tilt the ball head and put it out further like this, and then I've got even more reach. So quite a handy little setup. So when I first got this little thing, I was just really trying to eliminate the need for a second tripod in the room, because I had a main camera on the tripod that I'm shooting on right now, and then I also wanted to have a second camera angle. I was shooting guitar instructional video, and I wanted to have a close-up with a telephoto lens, and therefore I needed to sit the camera as far back as I could in the room. And for one thing, I couldn't get all the way to the wall with the floor, because there are just things all around this room. And then the other thing is, even if I could, I just didn't want another tripod to have to trip over in here. So being able to sit the camera on the surface of a table and get it as far back away from me was really helpful. Now that was my first motivation, but then I've just quickly found that this thing is massively useful for so many other things. For example, the vlogging thing that I already mentioned. But also, it's so small and lightweight, I've been able to put it in my camera bag and not really think about it, just carry it with me whenever I don't really want to carry a full-size tripod, and it's just so light you don't even know it's there until you need it. Now the weight capacity for this thing is 5.5 pounds, so that really means you could put most typical mirrorless cameras and DSLR lens combinations on it pretty easily. When I first got it, I was always using it with these, the Canon T3i and a T2i, and they don't really weigh much, but the lens that I would use on here a lot of times when I was shooting, as described before, was this big Tamron 70-300, and it's actually quite heavy. So as you'll see, so as you can see, it's actually a pretty big setup for this tiny little tripod. Now the trick though was just to orient it so that the lens is always directly over one of the legs, and that really stabilized it and made it where I could really rely on it to not move. So as you can see, it actually sits real stable. Now you can extend it out and adjust it however you like. And it works pretty well. Now the thing that I will say about this, I over-tightened this this little screw here and ended up breaking the little washer that's in there. It's like a little C-shaped washer that fits in and holds it in place. But I went to a hardware store and found the same size and shape of washer and was able to take it apart and put it in there and fix it. And it's been great ever since. Now I just know not to over tighten it. But this little item has been fantastic. I highly recommend the Manfrotto PIXI EVO Mini tripod. So that's it, just basic features and highly reliable. It's only like $41 on B&H right now. I don't even think I paid that much for it when I got it. So I've had this thing for a number of years now, and I've definitely gotten my money's worth. It's been so much more useful than I ever expected. All right, so now time for my little bonus tip of the day, a hack, if you will. You may have heard of this before, you may have done it before, but I thought I'd share it here anyway. It's the little poor man's slider trick. So if you've got a flat surface like this and a little tripod, you could get some furniture sliders at a hardware store, real cheap, like $3 or $4 for these things, and sit them down and then put the legs, put one under each leg on the tripod, and you've got this perfectly smooth sliding ability with your little tripod, and you can get really nice professional looking results without having to actually buy a slider. Now if you need to do this on a carpeted surface, you can just get the sliders that are made to slide on carpet, and in this case they are just plastic, and the same kind of thing. You just sit them down and you're good to go. Just slide it along your carpet, and these actually will slide on a surface like this too, but the felt just seems smoother to me. If you wanted to make your little mini tripod a permanently slidable device, you could just get stuff like this and stick on the bottoms of each leg, these little felt slider type tabs, and you can get these a lot of times at a grocery store, definitely in a hardware store. You can also apply this to large tripods. I do it all the time for any time I need to move a tripod. I just use furniture sliders and just move it across carpet, tabletops, whatever I need to do. Sometimes it takes a little practice to get the focus just right and to move it real smoothly like you might want. In the long run, the results are really good, and it's a really cheap way to get a professional look. But anyway, I hope you like that tip, and if you've got any ideas that you'd like to add, please leave it in the comments. I'd like to hear about any bang for the buck ideas, cheap ways to get good camera movement. Let me know. I'd love to hear it. And if you like this video, click like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Evo, Manfrotto, Evo PIXI, Manfrotto PIXI, Manfrotto Mini, Mini PIXI, the Manfrotto PIXI Mini Evo, what the hell? The Manfrotto Mini PIXI, the Manfrotto PIXI Evo.